Imagine this. A quiet small town, tucked between the pines, where nothing ever happens, until one night, something did. A family dinner left unfinished, a car door left open, and a silence that stretched for decades. What began as an ordinary evening turned into one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries in modern history, the kind that doesn't just fade away, but lingers. The investigators who worked the case still talk about it with a mix of frustration and disbelief. The files? Still open. The leads? All cold. And the question that echoes louder with each passing year, what really happened that night? This isn't just another missing person story. It's a haunting web of secrets, strange coincidences, and clues that never quite add up. Today, we're reopening the case. And once you hear the details, you'll understand why it still keeps detectives up at night. Chapter 1: The night it all began. It started like any other night, quiet, calm, and utterly forgettable. But that's the thing about tragedy. It never sends a warning. It was a crisp autumn evening. The streetlights hummed softly, and the small town of Millstone was settling in for another peaceful night. Around 8:47 p.m., neighbors reported hearing faint laughter from the corner house on Willow Creek Lane, the sound of a family dinner winding down. By 9:15, that same home had gone completely silent. When the sun rose the next morning, plates were still on the table. The front door stood slightly ajar. The family car, parked outside, keys still in the ignition. But the family themselves were gone. No sign of a struggle. No footprints. No calls for help. At first, police thought it might be a misunderstanding. Maybe they'd left for a trip. But as the hours passed and phone calls went unanswered, dread began to creep in. By nightfall, search teams scoured the woods. Helicopters hovered overhead. And one detective muttered something that would stick with everyone who heard it. It's like they vanished into thin air. That night marked the beginning of a mystery that would spiral into obsession, heartbreak, and one of the most baffling investigations in modern history. Chapter 2: A Town Frozen in Fear. News spreads fast in small towns, faster than the wind, faster than reason. By the next morning, everyone in Millstone knew. An entire family had vanished without a trace. Coffee shops buzzed with theories. Some whispered about a possible break-in. Others muttered about something darker, something not of this world. For a community that hadn't seen a major crime in years, the silence of that house on Willow Creek Lane felt unnatural. Reporters soon arrived, their cameras flashing against the yellow police tape. The local sheriff gave brief, shaky statements. "We're doing everything we can." But his eyes told a different story: confusion, exhaustion, and maybe even fear. As days turned into weeks, no new leads surfaced. Search dogs lost the scent a few hundred feet from the property line. Security footage from nearby streets showed nothing. It was as if the world had simply erased them. Parents started locking doors for the first time in decades. Kids were kept inside after dark. And when the wind rustled through the trees at night, some swore they could still hear faint voices calling from the woods. Millstone had always been the kind of town where everyone knew everyone. But after that night, no one trusted anyone anymore. Chapter 3: The Cryptic Evidence. For weeks, investigators combed through every inch of the Willow Creek property. At first, it looked like a clean disappearance. No fingerprints out of place, no forced entry, no signs of a struggle. But then, one detail changed everything. Behind a loose panel in the basement, detectives found something strange. A series of hand-drawn symbols scrawled onto the wooden beams. Circles, lines, and intersecting shapes that didn't match anything familiar. Alongside them was a single phrase, written in a trembling hand. "We shouldn't have gone there." The question was obvious. Gone where? Investigators sent the drawings to specialists, but interpretations varied wildly. Some claimed they were simple doodles. Others believed they resembled an old folk symbol meant to ward off evil. But if that were true, then what were they trying to keep out? Or in? Adding to the mystery, one of the family's laptops contained a half-deleted folder labeled Creek Footage. The remaining file, a few seconds long, showed a shaky video of the woods. A blur of trees, a quick gasp, and then static. Was it fear? Or just an innocent moment captured before something unimaginable happened. Whatever it was, that basement transformed a missing person case into something far more chilling and far less explainable. Chapter 4: The theories begin. When evidence dries up, imagination takes over, and in Millstone, imagination ran wild. Within a month of the family's disappearance, the case had become a storm of speculation. The first theory? Classic, they ran away. Maybe debt, maybe secrets, maybe they just wanted to start over. But that idea fell apart fast. Their bank accounts were untouched. Their passports still in a drawer. No sign of preparation, no goodbyes, no trace of intent. Then came the second theory, an inside job. Could a relative have been involved? Detectives quietly investigated extended family, but the results were clean. Still, whispers lingered. And then came the third theory, the one that would ignite a fire online. Locals began recalling strange lights over the woods weeks before the disappearance. One hunter claimed his dog refused to go near the creek that month. Social media ran with it: alien abduction, government cover-up, paranormal intervention. Suddenly, Millstone wasn't just a small town. It was ground zero for every internet detective and conspiracy enthusiast on Earth. But one theory hit differently, and it came not from the internet but from a retired detective who once worked the case. He said quietly, off the record, "This wasn't random. They found something they shouldn't have." That comment would change everything. Chapter 5: The Missing Diary. 3 months after the disappearance, investigators stumbled upon something they'd somehow missed before. A personal diary belonging to the mother, tucked away inside a false bottom of her dresser drawer. At first glance, it seemed ordinary. Grocery lists, notes about school events, reminders about dinner plans. But as the entries drew closer to the night they vanished, the tone changed. The handwriting grew shaky, sentences shorter, more frantic. One entry, dated just 5 days before the family disappeared, read, "The kids say they hear someone outside again. I told them it's just the wind, but I'm not sure anymore." Another entry, the last one, was just 2 words: "It's back." The page ended abruptly mid-sentence, as if she'd been interrupted. Forensic teams confirmed the handwriting was authentic. There were no fingerprints other than hers. The discovery reignited the investigation, and reignited fear throughout Millstone. What was it? Some believed she was referring to a stalker, possibly someone watching the family. Others claimed the diary matched stories of shadowy figures seen near the creek at night. Whatever the case, that small, worn-out journal added a new, haunting layer to the mystery, one that would only deepen as new evidence came to light. Chapter 6: The Creek Discovery. 6 months after the family's disappearance, most people had lost hope. Search efforts had slowed, and the news cycle had moved on. But for one volunteer, a local fisherman named Dave Hanlon, the mystery was far from over. While casting his line one foggy morning near Willow Creek, Dave noticed something caught between the reeds. It wasn't trash. It was a piece of fabric, bright red, torn. As he pulled it free, he realized it was a child's jacket, small, muddy, and unmistakably old. Authorities rushed to the scene. A full search of the creek bed uncovered more unsettling finds. Fragments of a cell phone casing, part of a watch strap, and a single, rusted key. But no human remains. Then came the strangest detail of all. Every piece of evidence seemed weathered far beyond 6 months. Forensics suggested exposure for years, not months. But that didn't make sense. These items hadn't been there during earlier searches. It was almost as if the creek itself had chosen when to give them up. This discovery reignited national attention. The media swarmed Millstone again, headlines screaming, "New evidence found in vanishing family case." But for investigators, it raised more questions than answers. And the deeper they dug into that creek's history, the darker things became. Chapter 7: The Haunting Recordings. 2 weeks after the creek discovery, police released a shocking update. A set of old cassette tapes had been found inside a box buried behind the family's garage. At first, they looked like nothing, just dusty home recordings labeled "Summer Memories." But when investigators played them, what they heard was anything but normal. The first few minutes were innocent enough. Laughter, backyard chatter, the sound of cicadas humming in the distance. Then, on tape number 4, everything changed. A sudden thud. The audio distorts. A voice, faint, trembling, whispers, "It's watching us again." What followed was 30 seconds of static, and then nothing. Audio specialists cleaned up the recordings, enhancing background noise. What they uncovered sent shivers through the room. A low, rhythmic sound, almost like breathing, too deep for a human, too controlled for an animal. Investigators couldn't determine when or how the tapes were buried. But the timing aligned perfectly with the diary's final entries, and with neighbors' reports of strange noises echoing near the creek that same week. For the first time, police publicly admitted they were dealing with something unusual. But privately, several officers requested reassignment after reviewing the tapes. Whatever haunted those recordings, it wasn't done with Millstone yet. Chapter 8, The Return of the Lights. It started again, exactly 1 year after the family vanished. Locals began reporting strange lights hovering above Willow Creek. At first, it sounded like small-town gossip. But then came the videos. Dozens of residents recorded glowing orbs silently drifting across the treeline. Too low to be aircraft, too coordinated to be random. The lights would appear for a few seconds, then blink out all at once. One clip, captured by a teenager on her phone, showed something even stranger. The lights weren't floating aimlessly. They seemed to form a pattern, a perfect circle, expanding outward before dissolving into darkness. Police dismissed the sightings as drones, weather balloons, even camera glitches. But meteorologists disagreed. There was no atmospheric explanation. And those who witnessed it in person described a feeling that chilled them to the bone. It wasn't just seeing them, one local said. It was like they were looking back. Investigators revisited the creek, hoping to connect the lights to the family's disappearance. What they found left them speechless. All the items recovered months earlier, the jacket, the watch strap, the phone fragments were gone. Vanished. That night, the lights returned one last time, brighter than ever before. And just like that, they disappeared again. But something told everyone in Millstone this wasn't over. Chapter 9, The Investigator's Breakdown. Detective Alan Reeves had been on the Millstone case since day one. He was the one who stood at the kitchen table that morning, staring at half-eaten plates and cooling coffee. For years, he refused to give up, even when everyone else had moved on. But the case didn't just consume his time, consumed him. Colleagues began noticing changes. Reeves stopped sleeping. He'd show up to work with dark circles under his eyes, mumbling about patterns in the static. One night, a fellow officer found him alone in the evidence room. All the cassette tapes playing at once, layered over each other, echoing like a haunting symphony. He told his partner later that he'd heard something new that night. A voice. "It said my name," he whispered. After that, Reeves requested medical leave. But weeks later, he returned to the woods, alone. His car was found parked by the creek, engine still warm. Reeves himself was discovered 2 miles into the forest, dazed, incoherent. He couldn't recall how he'd gotten there or why. All he could say over and over was this, "They're still here." From that moment on, even the most skeptical investigators began to wonder, had this case gone beyond the realm of logic? Chapter 10, The Case That Never Closed. Years have passed since that fateful night on Willow Creek Lane, yet the case file remains open and hauntingly empty. No arrests, no remains, no closure, just fragments of a story that refuses to end. The house still stands, though no one dares to live there. The grass grows wild, the windows clouded with dust. Every so often, someone drives by out of morbid curiosity, but most locals avoid it altogether. They say strange things happen near that property. Phones lose signal. Car radios cut out. Some claim they've seen faint lights flicker in the upstairs windows, long after dark. Every few years, a new detective is assigned to review the file, but the results are always the same. The diary, the tapes, the creek evidence, all tested, all inconclusive. It's as if the case mocks anyone who tries to solve it. But here's what truly chills the remaining investigators. Each year, on the anniversary of the disappearance, something small yet unmistakable happens. A single 911 call from an untraceable number. Silence on the line followed by faint static. And beneath that static, barely audible, a voice. We're still here. No one knows who or what is speaking. But one thing's certain. For the people of Millstone, this mystery isn't just unsolved. It's alive. Chapter 11 reopened. The new evidence. Years had passed, and the case had grown cold. Most people assumed the Willow Creek mystery would remain unsolved forever. But in a surprising turn, modern technology breathed new life into the investigation. Digital forensics teams re-examined the family's old devices, the half-deleted laptop files, the corrupted phone fragments, and even the cassette recordings. Using state-of-the-art enhancement software, they managed to clarify details that had been invisible before. Faces, faint shapes, even subtle movements in the video footage that had previously been dismissed as shadows now became noticeable. One clip, barely 10 seconds long, revealed a fleeting figure, a dark silhouette standing at the edge of the creek, just before the lights were first seen. Another showed a flash of reflective eyes in the trees, almost like someone or something was watching the camera. Investigators also uncovered metadata embedded in the deleted files. Dates didn't align with the family's timeline. Files were created and modified at times when no one had access to the devices. It was as if someone had been tampering with the evidence, or leaving cryptic messages hidden in plain sight. For the first time in over a decade, the authorities had tangible proof that the case wasn't just a series of coincidences. But instead of bringing clarity, this new evidence only deepened the mystery. The question now wasn't just what happened, but who or what was behind it. Chapter 12, The Missing Time. As investigators dug deeper into the Willow Creek timeline, they discovered something unnerving. Hours that simply couldn't be accounted for. The night of the family's disappearance had been carefully reconstructed using phone records, security footage, and witness statements. But when all the pieces were aligned, a gap emerged. A 3-hour window where no one knew where the family was, and no one saw or heard anything unusual. Even the creek, heavily patrolled in prior searches, had yielded no clues during this period. Detectives began questioning neighbors and local hikers. Some recalled strange sounds, whispers, footsteps, while others claimed to see flickering lights in the forest. None of these reports were consistent, and yet, when plotted on a timeline, they oddly overlapped the missing hours. This lost time became the case's most haunting feature. It wasn't just that the family vanished. It was that their disappearance seemed to exist outside normal reality. Could something or someone have manipulated time itself, even briefly? Or was it a human hand, clever enough to erase all evidence? Psychologists and investigators alike struggled to reconcile these missing hours. The gap suggested premeditation, but by whom, or what, and why? As the cold case files were updated with this revelation, even veteran detectives admitted it felt like the case had slipped into a different dimension. For the first time, Millstone wasn't just facing a mystery, it was confronting an enigma that defied explanation. Chapter 13, The Family's Silence. In the wake of the disappearance, the family's relatives became a focal point for both investigators and rumor mills. But instead of providing clarity, their responses only deepened the mystery. Extended family members spoke cautiously, often refusing to answer direct questions. Some claimed they didn't know the family had been in trouble. Others hinted at private tensions that outsiders would never understand. Yet, none could explain the disappearance. Even decades later, many of them remained tight-lipped, almost as if bound by an unspoken agreement. Psychologists suggest that trauma and fear can enforce a family silence, where relatives subconsciously avoid discussing painful events. But in Millstone, the silence felt heavier, almost deliberate. Some whispered that the family knew something dangerous and left clues in subtle ways. The diary, the hidden cassette tapes, the strange references in personal letters. One aunt, speaking on condition of anonymity, revealed, "We've always known more than we say, and sometimes it's better that way." This statement ignited speculation that the family themselves may have encountered something sinister. something so frightening that even their own kin hesitated to speak about it. The deeper investigators probed into the family's private life, the more contradictions surfaced. Friendly neighbors contradicted each other, personal journals hinted at fear, and small oddities, missing items, unexplained phone calls, painted a picture of an ordinary life overshadowed by extraordinary mystery. For Millstone, the family's silence was as haunting as their disappearance itself. Chapter 14: The Psychic's Prediction. Months after the disappearance, a self-proclaimed psychic, Marlene Hayes, contacted the Millstone Police Department. She claimed she could see fragments of the event that had eluded investigators for years. At first, the detectives were skeptical. Psychics rarely solved real cases. But Marlene's predictions were oddly specific, and the media quickly latched on. In a televised interview, she described the scene near Willow Creek: a sudden disturbance, a shadow passing behind the trees, and a family that had been taken but not gone. Her most chilling statement: "They will not be found where you think, and the ones who look hardest may see more than they wish." Skeptics dismissed her claims as vague theatrics, yet her details matched elements investigators hadn't publicly released. The layout of the hidden basement panel, the location of the creek items, and even the phrasing in the mother's diary. Residents were divided. Some saw Marlene as a beacon of hope, offering insight where the law had reached its limits. Others feared her involvement, worried she might manipulate grief or stir panic. Even for the police, her prediction planted a seed of unease. Could there be truths hidden beyond human perception? Could someone or something be guiding the events unseen, leaving breadcrumbs only a sensitive could detect? Whether coincidence or intuition, the psychic's words added another layer of intrigue, and further blurred the line between explanation and the unexplainable. Chapter 15: The Hidden Room. Months after Marlene Hayes' predictions, investigators returned to the family home, determined to re-examine every corner. What they found shocked them: a hidden room concealed behind a false wall in the basement. It wasn't large, barely enough space for one person to sit, but it contained items that immediately set off alarms. Old journals, photographs with faces scratched out, and a series of strange symbols matching the ones previously found on the basement beams. Most unsettling was a small desk with a half-finished letter, written in the mother's hand, addressed to no one in particular. The letter hinted at fear of someone watching from the shadows, and a plan to hide something critical before it was too late. Investigators speculated that this secret room may have been a refuge for the family in the days leading to their disappearance. But why had they left it behind empty if it was meant for safety? Forensic teams found no fingerprints beyond the family's, suggesting no one else had entered, at least not recently. Yet the items inside indicated an urgency and a fear that transcended normal concern. The discovery of the hidden room reignited theories. Had the family uncovered something dangerous, something that forced them into hiding? Or was the room itself a clue deliberately left behind, a final message waiting for someone to piece it together? Whatever the answer, the hidden room added another haunting layer, one that blurred the line between protection and premonition. Chapter 16: The Message in the Woods. Weeks after discovering the hidden room, hikers near Willow Creek stumbled upon something chilling. A carved message etched into the bark of an old oak tree. At first, it appeared random, scratches that looked like the work of bored teenagers. But as investigators examined the site, the pattern became unmistakable. The carving read in jagged letters, "Don't follow US." The message was unnerving not just for its content, but for its precision. The letters were deep, deliberate, and carved with intent, not hurriedly scratched in panic. Forensics confirmed the wood had been cut months earlier, yet no tools or suspects were ever identified. Some locals claimed to have seen figures moving in the woods around the same time, disappearing whenever anyone approached. Others reported hearing faint, almost human-like whispers carried by the wind. Even veteran investigators admitted they felt watched during their site visits. The message added another layer to the mystery. It suggested awareness, communication, and perhaps a warning. But who had carved it? The family? Someone else entirely? Or something else that had remained unseen for decades? This cryptic warning renewed debate among experts, media, and online sleuths. It was proof that the woods held secrets far beyond ordinary explanation. Secrets that continued to tease, taunt, and terrify anyone daring enough to investigate. For Millstone, the message in the woods was more than a warning. It was a haunting reminder that some truths may never be revealed, willingly. Chapter 17: The Media Frenzy. As the Willow Creek case dragged on, the story captured national attention. News outlets, true crime podcasts, and social media platforms amplified every detail, real or rumored. Suddenly, Millstone wasn't just a small town. It was the epicenter of a cultural obsession. Journalists descended, cameras flashing, microphones thrust into the faces of terrified neighbors. Every discovery, the hidden room, the diary, the creek items became a headline. Some outlets sensationalized the story, hinting at paranormal involvement, alien abductions, and secret government experiments. Others took a more measured approach, reporting only verified facts. But for the public, sensationalism was far more compelling. The frenzy had consequences. Locals complained about being hounded, and the family's extended relatives faced invasive interviews. Yet, the media attention also uncovered new witnesses, people who had been too scared to come forward initially. Each claim added new layers to the mystery, but also more contradictions. Online forums erupted with theories, fan maps, and timelines, connecting seemingly unrelated clues in intricate webs. Some conspiracy enthusiasts claimed the family's disappearance was a cover-up. Others insisted they had escaped into another dimension. For investigators, the media frenzy was a double-edged sword. Tips flooded in, but the noise made it difficult to separate fact from fiction. Still, one thing was undeniable. The Willow Creek mystery had transcended local legend. It had become a national obsession, a story that refused to fade from public consciousness. Chapter 18: The Hoax That Misled Everyone. As public fascination with the Willow Creek case grew, not every lead was genuine. One particularly shocking turn involved a man named Leonard Price, a local claiming he had uncovered the family's fate. Price provided investigators with a detailed story, claiming he'd seen the family in a remote cabin months after their disappearance. He produced photographs, maps, and even a supposed diary excerpt. For weeks, authorities believed they were finally on the verge of solving the mystery. But then the cracks appeared. Experts analyzed the photographs and discovered subtle inconsistencies, shadows that didn't match the lighting, timestamps that had been digitally altered, and handwriting that didn't match the family's. The maps were generic, and the diary excerpt, while convincing at first glance, contained anachronisms that betrayed its recent creation. It became clear Leonard Price had staged the entire story. Whether for fame, attention, or darker motives, his deception had misled police, journalists, and online sleuths alike. Valuable time and resources had been wasted chasing a fabricated trail. The hoax fueled frustration and skepticism in the community. Some feared it would tarnish the investigation permanently, making future tips harder to trust. But even in exposing the deception, Price's actions added another layer to the case. A reminder that in mysteries like Willow Creek, the line between truth and fabrication is often razor-thin. Despite the setback, investigators pressed on, knowing that somewhere beneath the noise of hoaxes and theories, the real story still waited to be uncovered. Chapter 19: The Return of a Name. Just when the Willow Creek case seemed to have plateaued, a shocking development emerged. A name resurfaced. One that had been whispered in hushed tones for years: Elias Monroe. Monroe had lived in Millstone decades ago and was known for his reclusive behavior. Locals described him as eccentric but harmless, until rumors surfaced linking him to strange occurrences in the woods near Willow Creek. After the family vanished, his name faded into obscurity, until a researcher uncovered old police notes and photographs mentioning him. Investigators approached Monroe, now in his late 70s, hoping to gather answers. But his responses were cryptic, almost unnerving. He acknowledged knowing the family but insisted he had no part in their disappearance. Yet, the way he described the events of that night, the sounds in the forest, the lights over the creek, even the strange symbols, was chillingly detailed. He spoke with such certainty, as if he had been observing it all from the shadows. Some officers left the conversation shaken. Had Monroe been a witness or something else entirely? His name reignited debates in town. Was he a key piece of the puzzle, or just another red herring? The resurfacing of Monroe's name reminded everyone that in a case like Willow Creek, no lead is too old, no clue irrelevant, and no person can be dismissed lightly. Chapter 20, The Final Lead. Just when the Willow Creek investigation seemed destined to remain unsolved, a breakthrough emerged. A lead that promised to tie together years of mystery. A local hiker came forward with a forgotten detail. Years ago, they had noticed an overgrown trail leading deep into the forest, near a cluster of trees that had never been searched thoroughly. At the time, the hiker assumed it was just another hidden path. But after the family's disappearance, the trail took on a sinister significance. Investigators returned, carefully marking the route and documenting each step. Deep in the woods, they found remnants of what appeared to be a temporary campsite. A small fire pit, scattered clothing, and fragments of a journal. The handwriting matched the mother's, confirming the family had passed through this location. Yet the site offered no clear answers. There were no signs of struggle, no footprints beyond those made by the family, and no indication of who or what might have intercepted them afterward. The discovery was tantalizing but frustrating. It confirmed a part of the story, yet opened countless new questions. For the first time in years, the investigators felt a mix of hope and dread. The final lead didn't solve the mystery, but it suggested that the truth might still be within reach, if only someone could follow the path carefully enough. In a case like Willow Creek, every discovery feels like both an ending and a beginning. Chapter 21, The Unseen Witness. Amid the chaos of theories, hoaxes, and dead ends, a surprising piece of evidence surfaced. A witness who had remained unseen for years. A retired forest ranger, Harold Jenkins, came forward claiming he had observed something unusual the night the family vanished. Jenkins, who patrolled the woods around Willow Creek for decades, described seeing shadows moving near the creek. Not people, not animals, but something that seemed alive in a way he couldn't explain. He recounted the lights, the muffled sounds, and a sense of being watched from multiple angles at once. What made his testimony extraordinary was its consistency with other pieces of evidence. The hidden room, the diary, even the carved message in the tree seemed to align with his recollection. Unlike the unreliable reports from neighbors or online speculation, Jenkins' account came from decades of experience in the forest and meticulous record-keeping. His statements sent chills through investigators. He wasn't claiming to know exactly what happened, only that he had witnessed the environment around the disappearance behaving strangely. It added weight to the theory that something beyond normal human comprehension might have been at play. For the first time, a credible voice hinted at unseen forces operating in the woods, bridging the gap between anecdotal fear and hard observation. Jenkins' testimony didn't solve the case, but it gave investigators a renewed sense of purpose and a haunting reminder. Someone had seen it all, even if the rest of the world had not. Chapter 22, The New Investigation. With decades of unanswered questions and new testimonies emerging, authorities launched a renewed investigation into the Willow Creek case. Unlike previous efforts, this task force combined seasoned detectives, forensic specialists, and modern technology to re-examine every piece of evidence. High-resolution satellite imaging was used to map the area around the creek. Drones scanned the treetops, revealing hidden clearings and pathways previously inaccessible. Digital analysis enhanced the old photographs, videos, and the family's devices, bringing faint details into sharper focus. Every fragment, from the diary entries to the cassette recordings, was meticulously cataloged and reanalyzed. One key breakthrough came from cross-referencing witness statements. Patterns emerged that had gone unnoticed before. The family's movements, the timing of the strange lights, and even the rhythm of the whispers on the tapes suggested a connection, a possible location or sequence of events leading to their disappearance. Despite the advanced tools and renewed energy, the case retained its eerie quality. Each discovery seemed to answer one question while opening 5 more. Investigators found themselves questioning the limits of human understanding, the reliability of memory, and even the nature of reality in the Willow Creek woods. Yet, This new investigation breathed hope into a community long resigned to mystery. For Millstone, it wasn't just a case reopening. It was a chance to finally confront the shadows that had haunted them for decades. Chapter 23: The Unexpected Breakthrough. After months of meticulous work, the Willow Creek Task Force finally stumbled upon an unexpected breakthrough. While reviewing the enhanced footage from the old cassette tapes, a detail previously dismissed as background noise became unmistakably clear. A faint, rhythmic tapping pattern. At first, it seemed like interference. But when investigators cross-referenced the timing with the diary entries and the testimony of Harold Jenkins, a chilling theory emerged. The tapping wasn't random. It appeared to be a signal, a deliberate form of communication. Following this lead, forensic audio experts isolated the pattern, revealing what sounded like faint voices echoing in the background. Words like follow and behind could be discerned, fragmented but oddly consistent across multiple recordings. The team hypothesized that the family may have been trying to signal someone, or perhaps something, while trapped in a situation they couldn't control. In parallel, drone surveillance and 3D mapping of the creek uncovered a previously unnoticed hollow beneath the forest floor. It was small, dark, and damp, but the dimensions matched a hidden passage mentioned vaguely in one of the diary entries. Could this have been where the family sought refuge? Or worse, where something had intercepted them? This breakthrough didn't answer every question, but it offered the first tangible clue in years. For the investigators, it was a mixture of hope and dread. Proof that the truth was closer than ever, yet still perilously out of reach. Chapter 24: The Final Clues. With the unexpected breakthrough in hand, the Willow Creek Task Force pressed forward, determined to piece together the final clues. Every scrap of evidence, the diary, the cassette tapes, the hidden room, and even the carved tree message, was now examined through a single lens. The mysterious pattern revealed in the tapes. Investigators discovered that the family's movements over the last hours of their known timeline corresponded to a series of natural markers in the forest. Trees, rocks, and creek bends all seemed to form a map, possibly created by the family themselves. It suggested a deliberate attempt to leave a trail, perhaps for rescuers, perhaps for something else entirely. Forensic analysis of soil and plant matter near the hidden hollow revealed traces of the family's presence. Fibers, footprints, and a faint scent of smoke. It was the first physical confirmation that the family had been in that location after the disappearance. Meanwhile, digital specialists uncovered subtle manipulations in the diary entries. Seemingly innocent scribbles that, when interpreted as symbols, hinted at locations in the forest and even times of day. Could these have been coded warnings or instructions? Though the case remained unsolved, these final clues painted a more coherent picture than ever before. The pieces, the diary, the signals, the hidden room, suggested that the family may have understood a danger beyond normal comprehension, leaving cryptic breadcrumbs for anyone daring enough to follow. For Millstone, the forest, and the investigators, the mystery was far from over, but the fog had begun to lift. See Chapter 25: The Haunting Legacy. Decades have passed since the Willow Creek family vanished, yet their story continues to haunt Millstone and everyone who follows the case. The town has changed: new families, new houses, new routines. But the forest, the creek, and the mystery remain untouched, like a scar on the land itself. The case has inspired books, documentaries, podcasts, and countless online forums. Amateur sleuths analyze the diary, the tapes, and the carved messages, piecing together theories that range from plausible to the downright surreal. Yet for all the speculation, the core truth remains elusive. What happened to the family? Were they victims of a crime, an unknown force, or something beyond human understanding? Investigators, both past and present, acknowledge that the case shaped them. Some left the force, unable to let go of the shadows they witnessed. Others continued to return year after year, hoping that a subtle clue, a forgotten memory, or a new perspective might finally break the mystery wide open. For the community, the haunting legacy is personal. Parents warn children not to wander near the creek. Hikers recount strange lights and sounds. And every year, on the anniversary of the disappearance, a sense of unease settles over the woods. The Willow Creek case reminds us that some mysteries are not meant to be fully solved. Some truths are meant to linger, whispering through the trees, haunting the living, and challenging our understanding of what's real. And in Millstone, one thing is certain. The story of that family will never be forgotten.